Hey guys, welcome to the Power Rangers Multiverse Rangers podcast. I am your host, the Gold ZT Ranger Chris, and you know me from every other character I play, but also my co-host tonight. We have a couple of co-hosts actually. First, for the first half co-host, we have my boy Raphael here. Say hello.
Hello, buddy. How you doing?
Hi. And for the second half, our co-host will be in the This is a collaboration with the Discord server that we're placing out for the Zeoverse community. The link will be in the show as well. With that being said, my second half co-host will be Phenomenal.
What's going on, everybody?
All right. And with that being said, Raphael, would you like to introduce our special guest?
I'll gladly. Have you ever wondered what will happen if a certain crossover will ever happen? What if this crossover, something happened where Trunks decides to go to a different multiverse that's not his own? However, in this multiverse, they run into the Rangers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the beautiful, the talented. She is the voice of Kid Goku, Kid Gohan, Miss Kai, Baby Trunks. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Naldony.
Naldony. Thank you.
Yay!
This is how it's going to work. We're going to start off. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to ask good questions. Hands raised, please. We'll take it from order there. Raphael will pick out the order from the first half. Second half, Phenomenal will take over and do the same thing. So with that being said, Raphael, let's get it going.
As a gentleman, every gentleman lets the ladies go first. So, Christy, go ahead.
Oh my god, this is one of my dreams come true. My childhood! I grew up watching Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and I have a question. How many times we have to say the Kamehameha power up?
Oh my gosh, I've never counted. I can't. I don't even know if I could guess. My goodness, over 100.
Over 100.
Well,
Wow.
especially when we have to do them over and over for the video games at all different speeds. You know, Kamehameha or Kamehameha, or timing it out. Being a musician helps with that because it's like you can
Certain beats.
It's natural. So I don't know. I've never counted. That's a good question. I'm like, how many jelly beans are in the jar? I don't know.
And have to research that.
A lot. And I do it all the time now live, for fans and cameos and shout outs and meet and greets. So
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll plug those later on.
Next question. Our main boss, Rachel.
Okay, I've been a big fan of Dragon Ball since it first came out. What was it like playing Goku in the series?
Well, actually, a lot of the fans don't realize we actually did the shows out of order, and none of us knew that when we were first cast because we really weren't even sure what it was for. We didn't know what anime was or what the whole, Japanime kind of thing was. Well, I'd never heard of it before. Back in '98 was when I auditioned. I met the producer through some of my music contacts, singing and jingles and songs and some different types of things for morning show radio. And so when I auditioned for the females just because I didn't know what it was and just naturally thought, oh, well, I'll try out for the females, right? Mm-hmm. But before I left the room, they asked me to try a kid voice, a little boy voice. And because I'd been practicing my voices since I was a kid and grew up in musical theater and singing with bands and different things, I just threw a voice at them and they asked me to kind of like rough it up a little raspy, and they liked what they heard, and I was cast as Gohan. So my first role that I was ever cast in anime was Gohan in the Ginyu Saga. So we were right around episode 54. We basically picked up where the Ocean Dub left off. They basically, I say they, meaning Funimation, basically recast the show and brought everything down in-house in Dallas Fort Worth, where we would just record one at a time. So I recorded Gohan, he was kind of a background character at that point. He's Goku's son. And then about 2 years later, they picked up the property for Dragon Ball, and I was cast as Goku. So voicing Goku was higher pitched. The attitude was more carefree. He could get away with saying things. He was very innocent, not very smart. So he was just a lovable, kind of innocent, boy hero. So I had a lot of fun voicing him. It was a completely different character, and it was a lot more comedic related, super funny, lighthearted, more age appropriate for younger children, or really all ages. So they were very unique and very different, but they're related. So the fact that they sound similar was what was okay with the directors casting me for both.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Next
Who's
question.
next?
Becky.
Hi, I'm Becky. I'm also Chris's wife. I have a few questions, so now I'm like wondering what one I really. Okay, yes, I do. So many now. Okay, the best one I would say is, what would you tell other voice actors like us that would be the most needed thing to know with getting our vocals to change? I mean, do you have a method that you do that we might want to know about?
For me personally, it's practicing the voice and recording it and then listening back. And what had happened was, for me, when I was a young child, I was intrigued by cassette tape player. I got one when I was 8 years old. I'd already been recording stuff as a very, very young child on 8-track tape when I was like 2 and 3 years old, and my dad would record us and listen back. So I was already doing that, practicing my voice without knowing or having any aspiration at that time to be a voice actor. So my goal was to be a singer and to be a musician and learn piano and different things like that. So I grew up using my voice, mostly singing songs, choir, musical theater, but I started doing these funny voices and mimicking voices from my favorite characters or my babysitter, my friends. I would make up my own shows and record the questions and answers and different characters. And so I was using my voice all the time, not just for speaking to friends or whatever, or being in school, but I would record my voice and spend hours recording and listening to my voice on this cassette tape player, which is what all we had back when I was a young child. So I just naturally had I grew up with just a really good vibe for what my voice could do and what it was capable of. And as I got older, I found that I could do even more voices. So I was really pretty much doing that for fun as a hobby. And then once I got into musical theater, community theater, and started performing live, that's when I got more experience honing in on my voice and what it was capable of. So
Awesome.
I highly recommend practice, doing workshops, getting some acting training. There's lots of stuff online available. We didn't have the internet back when I was a kid. We didn't have all of these amazing, like we're doing now, so there's so many more ways to get into it and to get the training that you seek. So that's what I would suggest and it's so easy to do. You can just set it up on your computer. Some people record into their phone. There's apps, there's voice memos. Practice reading scripts if you want to do radio or narration. I say get right on the microphone and practice.
Awesome. That's a good question, Becky. Thanks for asking.
Good one.
Who's next?
All right. Also, one important thing. She also played OKKO, Let's Be Heroes.
Nice.
Yes.
All right.
Totally different. That was not anime. I was actually recruited in by the director out of state. He was in LA, and in around 2012, he reached out to me, or his casting agent found me somehow online, and they asked me to record some lines, and they cast me as KO. We did like the what do you call it? Oh, the trailer, the pilot. And it was actually started out as a show called Lakewood Plaza Turbo. We worked with storyboards, and it actually was a long period of time from the time they reached out to me and recorded that to the time the show was actually picked up by Cartoon Network. It was a couple of years later that the show was actually physically picked up, and then they flew me into LA where I would record with the rest of the cast. And we would record first and they would animate after, which is opposite of Japanese anime. Japanese anime, everything you see has already been done in Japan, and then everything you hear is dubbed in whatever language. So it was a completely different experience and a different recording experience. Everything about it was different other than the fact that I was a character voice actor and the voices were very similar because the director wanted a similar Kid Goku voice for KO. And I did end up doing the first 8 episodes. And then this was pre-COVID. So they ended up recasting my role with an LA-based actress that was kind of sort of voice matching because I lived in Texas. So it was kind of like nothing personal, kind of had to like make those changes just because of logistics.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Our next question will go to Elijah.
Hi, Miss Stephanie. How are you today? By the way, we thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. So thank you so much. My question is, playing Kid Goku and Kid Gohan, did you know when you first started portraying these characters that they would be such iconic characters in the Dragon Ball Z franchise? The Dragon Ball franchise?
I did not. When I was cast, I was excited to be doing something new and to be using my voice in a property that seemed like it was going to be around for a while. The directors just, for whatever reason, didn't necessarily explain that. That's not right or wrong. We just didn't know. A lot of us didn't know how big the show was already in Japan, and other countries were dubbing it. I kind of learned as I went along. The first year, I didn't really know how big it was. And then when Burger King came out with the promotion with the Dragon Ball Z toys that they would give in their kids' meals, I started to realize, okay, this is a little bigger than I thought. And of course, I saw parts of it on Toonami, on Cartoon Network, and then they would give us the videotapes of what we were on. They were VHS tapes, and we would get to have the ones that we were on. And then when I really thought it was a bigger deal was my first Comic-Con. I was a guest at San Diego Comic-Con in July of 2000.
Okay.
And that's when I started signing autographs, and we did like some trading card shows with the company called Score, and there's a trading card game. And that's when I kind of realized it was a bigger deal. And then when I went overseas with my show band that I was traveling with at the time, when I turned on the TV in Italy, I saw Dragon Ball Z and I saw Gohan and the other characters speaking and dubbing in Italian. And that's another step of like, wow. And then, I kind of like thought it was going to kind of go away, and it was just going to fade out, and maybe people would just watch reruns. But then they came up with more, and we did video games, and we did Budokai Tenkaichi and Atari. We did a game for Atari and PlayStation. And so anytime those would come in, we would be called in one by one to a different studio to do our video game voice, which is a lot of assertions and fighting and kicking and reactions and some dialogue as well, totally different. And then again, with that one, it's animated after, so it's a little bit backwards.
Okay, so the video game is animated after, as to where the Japan anime is animated before, and then dubbed.
Well, it could be that the Japanese games are already done, but what they have to do is record our voices and then slide them in where they go and time everything up because it's a video game.
Gotcha.
So it's a whole different process as far as post-production, as opposed to just speaking lines and then doing them over and over until you get it right or get the timing right. Nowadays, there's computers and things are much quicker. Back when I started voicing Gohan and then eventually Goku, and then Goku as a kid in Dragon Ball GT, we were still at it was cutting edge for the time, but it's antiquated compared to what they do now. It was very kind of like almost like rewinding, fast forwarding, and then placing the voice and sliding things around. So there was a lot of in between time And for someone like me that's got to stay busy ADHD, it was kind of difficult because you kind of had to just stand there in the booth, kind of like doing nothing. I mean, I got used to it and I got much better at it. After the first few months of doing the voice, I knew kind of where to go with the voice, and I kind of didn't need voice references to know exactly where the voice was. Now, when we moved into the Goku with Dragon Ball, you know, it became established that we had to get that higher pitched voice, a little bit younger, less raspy. And that's kind of what we went with for the little Goku voice. So yes, they're similar, and some lines even come out sounding similar, especially the fighting exertions. It's kind of hard to change those up other than just kind of like trying to stay on a higher register of my voice for Goku and a lower, more gruff voice for Gohan. So yeah.
Awesome.
Next question, Joseph.
Yes, I just got done watching one of the Dragon Ball Z movies, Super Saiyan Broly, and I was wondering what it was like to actually move into the movie realm of the anime show, rather than just doing syndicated episodes, and what were the differences in the production?
As far as the recording process, it was the same. So it was just like doing an episode, doing all of your lines, moving on to the next episode or whatever. Whereas with something like that, when we would be called in, we would probably stay as long as needed to complete the entire movie, as opposed to just like, because sometimes they would do, I say they, the ADR and the directors would have various deadlines, and we would do anything from 1 to 2 to 3 episodes. If we were already there, they would construct the session, you know, say like I got called in for 2 hours one day. It was a long way to get there. So a lot of times they would really try to work with us and give us a couple of hours of work as opposed to just one. And then at some point we were given a minimum. So it's like, hey, we'll give you a 2-hour minimum regardless, and we'll just fill that time with whatever. And a lot of times if we completed all of our lines in less than the time that was allotted, we would actually get to do what they call walla, or we would get to do like little side characters, which I found to be extremely challenging and super fun. I was like cast as, basically they didn't ever necessarily have names. They would be like a woman screaming or a baby crying or villagers laughing or pointing and screaming, and you know, it could be anything. And they call it walla because it's layered. Then sometimes we'd have 2 or 3 people in the booth and we'd all be crowded in there, and we would act like we're just talking in the background, and then they could layer it. And after about 3 or 4 takes, it would sound like an entire village, or you know, cab drivers. Or I remember I did a German English teacher voice that was kind of random. She didn't really have a name, but it's like, you know, she would just, please open your textbooks to the page Swansea 4. And if they liked it, and we would do it. And you know, it's crazy. As I got the voice, I was cast as Baby Trunks, and all I had to do was cry and, you know, and just mimic and watch his flaps. And I was also cast as Angela, Gohan's first date. That's up, you wear teddy bear underwear. And he's like, I'm the queen, ready. I will win the gold. And that was a random one. She wasn't really a big character by any means, but for about 6 or 7 episodes there, you know, the East Kai, West Kai, Grand Kai, King Kai. You guys remember those? I don't know if you watched Dragon Ball Z, but
yep.
So we would fill the time. We would never necessarily leave early. There was always something to do, and it was up to the director to kind of like say, hey, try this, try that. And then as the company acquired more properties, which at first was just Dragon Ball Z, and then Dragon Ball, and then Dragon Ball GT, then they acquired Yu Yu Hakusho, Blue Gender, Kitty Grade, Fruits Basket. Some of the other ones I wasn't as involved in as much, but then I was asked to, because I'm a singer, I got to work with Brave Combo and their producer. They're a Grammy Award winning polka band out of Denton, Texas, called Brave Combo. They asked me to work with him on the Japanese lyrics for the anime themes, and then we would cast and record the anime themes in English. So I got to help construct the lyrics for Sayonara Bye Bye, and then I was the singer on that one. I'm not credited. It's on my website, and a lot of the fans don't realize that I sang that. And then there was a show called Case Closed. I recorded a couple of themes for that. And then we did Kitty Great opening and closing. And those can also be found on YouTube and also on my website. So I was able to utilize my singing talent and my writing lyrics talent with another songwriter to work with that. And then at that point, they asked me to direct other singers. And I had a blast doing that. I could see myself doing that again at some point.
You got time for two more
It's just
questions?
kind of morphed. Like, if you were there already doing something and then you would see someone come and go in between your sessions, that then you could, network, give each other's information. Hey, I do improv comedy. You ever want to sit in? Or, hey, I'm in a band. Are you a singer? That's how I recruited Meredith McCoy for Vince Vance and the Valiants, the show band I'd been singing with since 1991. I recruited her into the band in the year 2001. And I found out she was a singer, and she ended up being a great singer. She still sings to this day. So you just meet people in the industry when you're working. And if you're at a cast party or you're at an industry meeting or you're just at some, Dallas theater industry happy hour or whatever, we would just kind of support each other and meet each other. I know that Mike McFarland and Chris Rager and Josh Martin, who are the voices of Master Roshi, is it Boo? Boo, yeah, Big Giant, yeah. And Chris Rager is a voice of Mr. Satan.
Yeah.
Hercule. Yeah, so I remember going to some of their shows because they did improv, and that was what also was kind of how they developed the character voices, is because they did improv. So a lot of the talent that was brought in from the get-go, we were already involved in some kind of, voice work. We were singers, musicians, actors and actresses. I know that Cynthia Krantz and Linda Young had done a lot of acting. And then it was just a matter of recruiting. A lot of the ADR technical guys were interns, and then they learned to eventually become better at what they did, and then they became employees of Funimation. And then everything just kind of built up from there and just got bigger and bigger. And but back in the day when the company was really small, a lot of us were utilized for multiple characters, even if they were background characters, because it just made sense to utilize us. We were already there. We got paid by the hour, no residuals, no royalties. So that's just kind of how they did things back then.
Excellent. Okay, we're gonna have time for one more question in the first half, and then everyone else who has their hands raised will go in the second half when Phenomenal takes over. Okay, so Raph, pick the last one.
All right, next question, since he's been waiting the longest. So
that'd be you, Bakugo.
that's you, Bakugo.
Actually, I'm gonna let Zane take this one. He just joined. I'm gonna let my brother Zane.
Okay, go for it, Zane.
Reserved for the next one. Zane, question's yours.
Okay, hi. Question is, I don't know if this has been asked already, but this is kind of simple because I had no idea. What was like your favorite moment, scene, well, whatever, like interaction that you had within the roles you played?
My favorite?
Yeah.
My personal favorite is the comedy, which would have been Dragon Ball, and the innocent, funny, crazy things that Goku would say, like, why do women have butts on their chest? And it's really hard to tell sometimes, just his childlike innocence. It was the whole comedic. I say comedic. What do they call that? Comedic relief or comedic. There's a word for that.
Comedic timing.
Yeah, and Goku was kind of that. He wasn't the only one that was funny. I mean, but
Krillin was pretty good too.
The show was just more lighthearted and had a lot of slapstick comedy.
Mm-hmm.
From how much he would eat to him not knowing what money was, but he'd win a tournament and he'd win the money, and everybody'd be like, how did that little kid just beat Jackie Chung? How did this little kid just like win the martial arts tournament? I mean, it's just a little kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that in I was just checking to see if you had a tail, and there were parts of it, that could be construed as kind of like adult humor.
Right.
But it was kind of morphed in a way and presented in a very innocent fashion. because Goku just simply didn't know. He was raised in the woods and he didn't understand a lot. He just didn't know a lot. He only knew what he knew, which was literally being raised in the woods, and his grandpa on the 4-star ball. That's kind of all that, and you know, going out and getting his food and jumping in the water and grabbing a fish and taking it home. And so I just enjoyed that because I found it to be extremely hilarious to like record these lines and to see snippets of it now. And it's like, wow. I mean, and some people, you know, were kind of shielded their kids from it especially with Dragon Ball Z being so violent. And I know they had the unabridged version that they came out with on the VHS or whatever, but because it's, you know, the fighting, it's just really violent. I mean, it's like a lot of, I mean the good versus evil, all of that's cool. The whole superhero concept of Goku and all these, you know, the good guys winning, and if that's possible, and it was fine. But I know that a lot of the parents were kind of a little protective. Now, the stuff that was shown on Cartoon Network was already abridged. Like there was not to be like a whole lot of like excessive blood, or like, because like Frieza like pummels Gohan, and that had to be cut out because like it's a child, so it could be considered abuse. So there, you know, Cartoon Network has its parameters for good reason. So
yeah,
basically I would just go and do my lines, and then if there was an alternate line, it would be done at the same time, and then it would be placed in the unabridged. So as far as production, we didn't have to worry about any of that. We just kind of did our lines, and then we get it right. And then if the director was okay with that, we would move on to the next line.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for this is going to be the first half. We're going to come back after a brief break from our sponsor with Stephanie Naldony. And we'll be back on the Power Rangers Multiverse Rangers podcast.
Come on, Bulky, why do you always have to hug all the Galaxy Greens?
Me? You're the one who drank all the big energy tears, and you gave Spike all the push and punch.
It's not his fault he was thirsty. But where do we get more? Are we gonna have to go and borrow more from those nerds?
As these two are arguing, Chris walks by, sipping his monkey madness from the W hydration line. Bulk would see this and walk over to him.
Where did you get that W, geek?
Yeah, where? Bulky and I finished ours we took from you, and we want more. Where do we get it?
Okay, first and foremost, why did you take it from me? But secondly, you can go to www.w.gg where you can get your own W fix. It's genderless energy made from coffee fruit extract, and they have great swag that you can show your W support proudly, like t-shirts and hats.
For the record, it was Bulky's idea, but this is great, Bulky, but we're kind of on a budget too.
Yeah, we are between jobs at the moment, and really, Scully?
Hey! I always tell the truth.
That's no problem. We have a promo code that you can use to get 10% off. It's PR Multiverse, all caps, all one word. W is a top-of-the-line energy drink and energy booster. It gives me what I need to tackle the day and own the week, as well as the villains as I take down, you know, well, you don't know. I don't know. It's also for gamers and content creators of all sorts. It's genderless energy, again, made with coffee fruit extract with so many delicious flavors and no preservatives.
Bulk and Skull nod and then go to their computer and start ordering a whole bunch of W.
Come on, Bulky!
Hey, Bulk, Skull. Just remember to go to www.w.gg and place your promo code PR Multiverse, all capitals, no spaces, and say 10% off your purchase. And by the way, this is Lisa.
Now y'all done it.
Oh, great. Another wall we have to fix.
Energy.
Well, Skull, let's get this done.
Okay. don't hear it.
Yeah. Strike a pose.
I was trying to I was trying to get the timing in there. Anyway, let's give this 15 seconds. Welcome back to the Power Rangers Multiverse Rangers podcast. It is now time to get Xenonized on the other half, because now my second half co-star, Phenomenal. Welcome to this half of them all, and thank you for getting lost in the multiverse with us.
Hey, no problem, my guys. No problem. Man.
Go for it and introduce our special guest for the second half again.
Oh man, it's such a pleasure because I grew up watching all of the movies. My brother-in-law is my brother and my oldest brother are huge fans of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT, so he has the entire collection of the digital movies. So favorite one was always BoJack Unbound. So top rated. I know you played Gohan through that entire movie, so one of my favorite movies just because it sets Gohan's kind of just like his prowess as a teenager, adolescent. So without further ado, we have Stephanie Naldony with us today, and man, I'm starstruck. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, really?
So, welcome back.
Love it.
So
I love my
welcome,
fans.
welcome.
I got anime babies all over the world.
Yeah, all right, Phenomenal. You are now in charge of picking the cast members, starting from the last two that had their hands up, and go from there.
All right. So with that being said, buddy, Bakugo, go ahead and kick us off, man. What's your question?
Thanks, my guy. I want to say one thing. Thank you for my childhood. That's you. And I don't want to make it dark, but you saved me when I was at my lowest. So thank you.
That's something that's just like warms my heart. I hear that a lot. It's really brought me out of my own turmoil and really made me feel like I've got a purpose and a legacy. And it means a lot because I've lost both parents. I wasn't able to have kids. And so knowing that what I did years ago had such a strong impact and was such a positive escape for a lot of kids of all ages really means a lot to me. Really super, like more than you realize. So thank you for the compliment.
Anytime. My question is, I wanted to hear this in Kid Goku's voice for me. Goku, if you can give me one advice as a hero, how to be just like you, what would I have to do?
You mean a superhero?
Yeah. What would I have to do?
Yeah, in Goku's voice?
If you don't have to, you can't. I just want to.
I'll do part of it. Yeah, so you got to be pure of heart. You got to be selfless, think of others, take care of your friends, and do the right thing. The next right thing all the time, every day. Think about what you're doing. Don't be selfish. Help others, and everything will work out.
Thank you.
Sound advice from Kid Goku.
Oh,
that's just like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, that's
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Well, you take care of your people, and that's kind of like Gohan. Gohan's whole journey.
We took each other, tit for tat.
Yeah.
Yes, it was all about watching and not really knowing what to do as a young child and growing up and realizing that it was time for him to step in and do something. And with the help of his comrades and Goku speaking in his voice telepathically to say, now you've got everything you need. And you've got everything you need inside. And I know that sounds cliche, and that's another thing. Advice is like, you've got everything you need inside. You just have to tap into that conscience that tells you what's right and what's wrong, and feed the good. I say the good. There's the good and the bad, which is basically, self-seeking versus, turning over your self-will. It's kind of that whole concept, even, for Gohan and for a lot of the superheroes that are in Dragon Ball Z. So, and it's like that mental strength too. It's not just the physical strength, which is kind of where the whole like Roshi's training with young Goku and Krillin is hilarious, by the way. But they're like carrying, big boxes of milk up the mountain. Well, that doesn't make sense. But that's like a physical training, and then of course he also trained them mentally, which is, if you've ever seen Karate Kid, it's the same concept. It's the mental strength and the stamina. You got to have both, and they've got to be in communication with each other. That's what I think makes a good superhero.
Yeah.
And putting your life on the line to save the planet, or save the earth, or to save your friends, or to save your own self. I mean, my goodness, we're all walking around trying to like survive in this crazy fallen world. It's like, and like you said, this show was an escape for a lot of kids that there was, there's people that you never know, like their parents could be in prison. There could have been drug use or just domestic abuse. I've heard stories of kids coming up saying they were bullied in school. I was bullied in school. I get that. I was a new kid all the time. So that whole concept of like having Dragon Ball Z as a positive escape to keep you off the streets, keep you out from getting in trouble, from getting, hurt, injured, coming home and watching a show that's a cartoon that you can like engage in and draw some kind of strength from. Well, that's great. I mean, that's amazing. I'd like to do more of it, actually. I'm definitely not retired, so I'm auditioning like crazy. I'm ready for the next big role. So
absolutely,
that's awesome.
That was epic.
So next question is coming from my buddy. He's not here with us today. He's got a lot of stuff going on, but my buddy Z1, aka Jeremy, he's a big fan of Dragon Ball. Same thing. He says, how did you prepare for the role of becoming the most iconic role, such as Kid Goku in Dragon Ball? And then how did you actually get chosen for this role?
Yeah, that's a good question. We talked a little bit about it earlier in the first half, but basically it was a matter of basically getting the audition to start with. And that was just... it was kind of random. I mean, I joined a show band at 18. Well, in college, I joined a band locally at UNT, on the UNT campus in North Texas, and got a job touring with a show band from there because they heard my voice through the window. It's kind of an interesting story. But then within a couple of months, I was on the road touring with a show band called Vince Vance and the Valiants, and I was one of the Valianettes. I was Violet. We all had V names. We had characters that we would portray. Costumes. It was like a big musical Las Vegas show review, and we were traveling all over the world. Well, through that job, I met some other really amazing artists and songwriters in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we got into the studio. I recorded an album in '97 that hasn't been released, which I've got to get it on Spotify. I've got to figure that out next. But then I started working with morning show radio. I started doing parodies and jingles. I started writing comedic novelty songs for kids about Halloween and Christmas, and I was kind of like a Weird Al type of writer where I would change lyrics to songs and make it like hilarious, and then they'd put it on radio and then they would use it that way. And then from there I got the job at a company called Jimmy Toys, where I would just be anything they wanted. A child, a Halloween kid, ooh, are you scared? Or like a wicked witch. And I would just do character voice after Easter bunnies. I did a reindeer. But anyway, so I got into doing that. And through all of these things that I would do in between traveling with the show band, I was involved in the industry, and I was, passing out cards and making contacts and sitting in as a judge for like a talent show that was kind of like American Idol. Like people reached out to me to judge comedy, and I just met a lot of really great people, and there's just a lot of really amazing, talented people here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And as a result, I haven't moved to LA or New York. I didn't feel like I needed to. A horrible thing happened right when I was cast as Gohan. My mom was fighting cancer and passed away. So she was 50, and I basically drew from life experience. When it came time to be Gohan in the Cell Saga, and Goku was technically, his father was dead. That was like, I had real life experience here, And I look back at it now, and it's like the timing it was just really crazy. But I got the audition through a Grammy Award winning polka band called Brave Combo. Carl Finch was basically the one that started the band. They're still going. They're amazing.
Nice.
I started recording with them and recording vocals on an album. On their albums, and I met the producer of Dragon Ball Z, who was at the session because he was such a good friend of the guys, and they all lived kind of nearby, and he was a big fan of of the band, and then he heard my voice and asked if I ever did voiceover work. I said, yeah, I've done some stuff for Chuck E. Cheese. It was Hell in the Hen for one season. Did some Jimmy Toy stuff. So he gave me his card, and he already knew what he was doing. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, yeah, I may never hear from this guy again, right? But he did reach out and asked me to audition about 6 to 8 months later, and then I was cast as Gohan. And I was like, yay, it's Gohan. What's all this stuff? What's all this cartoon anime stuff? Tell me about it.
Right.
So that's how I got the audition, and auditioned for the females, and then did the boy voice, and they liked it, and that's kind of how it started.
Okay.
But I'm kind of a natural mimic. I mimic characters from King of the Hill, but Diane all this time, like I already kind of had just a natural knack for like character voices because they were silly and funny, and that's just kind of what I did on my free time when I was a kid. Little did I know that it was going to like contribute to my career, and that my voice acting would put me way more on the map than my singing did. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's backwards, but I'm not complaining. It's just you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Got to put the good stuff out there,
Yeah, and I guarantee I think I speak for everybody here. I mean, shoot, you inspired all of us at this point. I mean, being able to go from Goku to Gohan to Kid Goku and go back to Gohan.
Dragon Ball GT.
Just play the entire Goku family. It's
well,
other than short from Goten.
Is I can still do the voices, and I think that's why a lot of times you guys have probably heard, The Simpsons and Bobby Hill. All those characters I mentioned, they're Bart Simpson. They're voiced by females, and a lot of the reason that happens and that they do that is because a female can continue to do the voice for years and years and years, sometimes decades after the show.
And that's why you wonder why those kids never grow up.
Oh, right.
That part.
Yeah, that is true.
Just like in the comics, Family Circus, they're all still kids all the time. They never grow up. But that's why I think they do that, and I learned a lot about that through what I've been doing with I do a lot of children's voices, and even in my own songs that I've written, my novelty songs about Halloween and Christmas, I do all the voices, and then I get to sing in those voices, which I think is kind of a unique talent to be able to sing in a character voice. And I have a lot of experience doing that, and I have a blast when my dream role would be like the Little Mermaid, where she sings and she voices the character. My favorite, Jodie Benson.
Nice.
I'm still holding out for something big like that where I can actually sing as a character. I think that would just be a dream job.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Thank you. I know he's going to be happy that his question got answered. And then next up we have my good buddy Chris. Go ahead and take this one, my brother.
Yes, I also have a question from someone who could not be on our show tonight. Unfortunately, he's under the weather, so he's out. Demi, this question is from Demi. He was wondering what was it like to work on the set, to work in the studio with your castmates.
Yeah. Well, what it started out as is my director, who was the one I met in the studio when I was singing with the band and stuff like that. His name's Barry Watson. He was recording the voice actors in Vancouver prior to this big jump to come and take the show down to Dallas-Fort Worth and recast the show. So he would literally be like flying up there and then capturing the data. And of course they had residuals and royalties in Canada. So somebody behind the business aspect of it decided, hey, we're going to move the company Funimation down to Texas. There's so much talent here. We can do this as a right to work state. It'll cost a lot less to hire the actors and pay the actors, and let's just do this. And they did. And early on, the company was small. I mean, it was we were in like one little section of a building, like above like a bank. It was like a bank building, and it was like they had like a few of the offices, and basically I think Funimation was doing licensing. They were like distributing and doing licensing. They weren't really dubbing anything there in Dallas until they cast this show. So basically we were cast to start at like episode 54 or something like that, Ginyu Saga. And so when I started as Gohan, I was kind of like, mostly a background character, like, don't hurt my dad, and a lot of reactions and exertions. And then of course at some point he started fighting. And so the only castmates I would see and work with were either the director, which a lot of them were actors as well, and they could kind of cast and some of them cast themselves. They're already actors, and they think they can be better at this voice or whatever. So, but I actually ended up working with Mike McFarland, who's the voice of Master Roshi. He was already there when I was cast. He was already kind of working on some projects. So I would see him and work with him for the coming in and recording at my sessions, but then I'd see kind of some other actors coming and going when I would leave, because we recorded separately. But like I said, some of the directors were actors, so voice actors. So like Justin Cook and Sonny Strait, voice of Krillin. I would see them. Chris Kaysen, who lives in LA now. Chris Bevins recorded me in Dragon Ball GT. So I would see the directors, and some of them were actors, some weren't. Some of them were ADR directors that would just do the technical side of stuff, and that's all they really wanted to do. Some of them, I think, are still there. The company kind of grew, more properties were acquired. We ended up taking over more and more of this bank building floor. We ended up taking up the whole floor. Then we took up another floor. Then we outgrew the building. And then like 2008 or 9, the company moved to a completely different building. And then Sony bought them. And then now it's another building, still in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. It's called Crunchyroll. So the company was really tiny. I did see a lot of people coming and going. We had cast parties once a year to celebrate when we wrapped a project or when another anime wrap or something like that. So it was kind of a tight knit group early on. It was kind of like, we have like a talent pool, but it was a small talent pool. But mostly we could all do different voices. It wasn't just like I said, we did the background voices. I ended up doing East Kai and Baby Trunks, Angela, German English teacher. I mean, we would just, like Chuck Huber, just for an example, he played Android 17, but he also played Garlic Jr. and who's that other crazy character that sounds just like that? Garlic Jr. and Pilaf, Emperor Pilaf.
Yeah, Emperor Pilaf.
Yeah, so there's another example of someone that could completely change his voice. You wouldn't necessarily know that unless, you might know it now, but at the time, we were getting cast as different characters because we set up few minutes left of our session. They would use us for something, or we would be in the background, be a walla. Like I know that another character that Chuck played was like a taxi driver, like get out of my way, or it's like, and he was already a actor too. So, like I said, a lot of the cast were experienced actors. We were recruited in for the audition. It wasn't an open cattle call. It was kind of who you know, but you weren't just someone walking down the street that's like, oh, hey, I can do funny voices. It really wasn't like that. There was a lot of the talent brought in, Tiffany Vollmer, Cynthia Krantz, Linda Young, Monica Antonelli. Like a lot of them had already had some experience. And the audition is what kind of sealed the deal if the voice matched who they thought would be good. And as far as me getting the voice of Goku, I just showed up one morning and I was cast as Goku. The director knew my range, Barry Watson. Mm-hmm. He knew that the other Gohan in Vancouver was also the voice of young Goku. She was also a singer. We had all of these similarities, our voices, and the way we could change our voice and, morph it. Yeah, there was just similar. He could just tell because he was the director and he heard other people voicing already. So I got the voice of Goku simply by voicing Gohan for a couple of years, knowing we could just pitch it up and take out the rasp, and then you've got the voice of Goku. So nice. I'm just glad that, he could have said, no, this isn't going to work. And I'm sure that's happened from time to time. It's like, oh, no, that's not going to work. Or, some of us have been replaced. A lot of us weren't asked back for Kai or Super. Directors go different directions for different reasons. It's really pretty much up to whoever's directing the show.
Right.
As far as decisions like that.
Okay. Next question. Let's go ahead and give it to Eli.
I do have a question for you. By the way, condolences. But I do have a question for you. How intense was the vocal rehearsal for the Cell Saga?
Oh, extremely. That by far.
How vigorous was it?
Very. In fact, I was because Gohan was a prominent character in the Cell Saga. I was called in to do multiple sessions during multiple weeks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, it wouldn't be just 2 or 3 hours. It'd be like all day. Okay. So we would start at 10 and kind of end at 6. We'd have a break for lunch for like an hour. if at any time, I mean, the directors were pretty cool and laid back as far as like, if you're really, really raspy and it really kind of hurts, you need a break, we would take a break. Drink some water. You know, there was always a way to get water. We had a water cooler or whatever. You know, water was essential for, especially for screaming and yelling and fighting and stuff like that. So I do remember those weeks were very, very difficult. But like, keep in mind, I'm singing with a show band that's traveling 260 days a year or something. Like, we're rocking out, like, you know, 50s to the 90s, and we're singing rock music. So, you know, I'm singing blood curdling rock and roll. So my chops are good. They're used to it. They're used to being bashed. And I'm used to being to bounce back and being resilient because I had been doing it pretty much off and on all my life. So thankfully I had those chops. And when it was time to, you know, do the Gohan Cell Saga, which by the way, I had no idea until I walked in. The same thing. We would just show up to work. Okay, here you you're supposed to be here at 10 o'clock. They don't even tell you what you're doing. It's no big deal, but we don't really know what we're doing until we get there. So all of a sudden, here I am, you know, preteen Gohan, and the direction was, okay, you need to be the most lowest, gruffest, roughest, toughest, Clint Eastwood-ish voice that you could possibly come up with. That was my direction. Thankfully, the director was happy with that. So it was very intense though. And I remember when I'd leave those sessions, what we would do, thankfully, is they would leave all of the big giant screams and the toughest, roughest stuff at the very end of the session. And then they would just place it. Thank God they could do that, because then we would just, if we blew our voice out, fine. I remember having to just close my eyes and just scream as long as I could, over and over and over. And then in post-production, they would morph them or loop them however they saw fit. Of course, you get the music in there, the dun, 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 you know, so the suspense is there. So everything kind of gets mixed together, and they put it in wherever they need it. So thankfully, I didn't worry about any of that. I would just, you know, there was never a time I had to leave, except once. I got into a really bad accident on the way to work. One morning, somebody cut me off, and I swerved and got hit by a tractor trailer, twirled my car around. Then they hit me from the front, and then they pushed me back 70 feet. My car was totaled. I still found a way to get to my session. My brother came and got me and took me, and that's the only time I was like, because I was in shock, and so my voice was different, and the director could tell that I had been through like this horrible traumatic experience like an hour and a half before. And he actually said, you know what, we're going to call it like that's why, because I was worried about, okay, what am I to do now? I have a car. Like, it was all this stuff going on. And so that was the only session where I was like, you know what, let's reschedule. Like, you just got freaking, you could have died. Like, let's just cut it off. And then I just rescheduled. So that was just because I was so in shock, but I was determined to be at work. You know, I'm very, very work ethic is like, we're going to work. You know, working in a show band, you're sick, you got the flu, you're throwing up, you're still getting on that stage, and then you throw up at the break and you put your costume on and go back out. Like, the show must go on. And that was the mentality that I had since I'd been a professional vocalist. It's just what you do. And you just, unless you're like in the hospital, you know, you get back up on that stage, and then if you have to just collapse, take a bunch of aspirin and collapse at the end of the night, that's fine. But that's just what you did. So yeah, it was pretty intense. A couple of times I don't want to say I lost my voice, but it was extremely strained. And so all I'd have to do is just not talk, drink a lot of water, and get a really good night's sleep. And I could literally wake up the next morning, probably sound like a frog for about an hour, and then I could bust out. But a lot of times they would mix them up. Like, if I did a full day, they would give me a day off in between.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's usually like a Monday, Wednesday, which is very helpful. And then if you feel like you needed a break, just say, hey, I need a break. But I was kind of more of like a power through it. I can do this, you know, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I believe we only have about maybe 10 minutes left. So we just have a couple more questions. Next question, it's going to go to Rachel.
Time flies when we're having fun.
I know. Time flies when you're in a coma. Bad joke.
Go ahead, Rachel.
My question is in the Dragon Ball GT scene with Nova and Goku, where Goku swallows the Dragon Ball, and then he has the Dragon Ball sticking out of his head. Something about the pimple. What was that like, playing that part?
Which part were you speaking of? Is it in Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z?
GT.
GT.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like it was so long ago when I recorded. I'm not sure. I know there was some comedic scenes.
It was a comedic part with the Dragon Ball sticking out of his head.
Oh, right. Well, it was probably meant to be funny. I don't remember. I mean, I know that show had its moments. It was kind of an offshoot. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I do know Goku gets turned back into a kid, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's we got Trunks, you got Bulma, I think, Sunny Straight, got Giru, and we got Pan.
Yeah.
His granddaughter. I don't remember that scene. I guess I need to get online and look. I see a lot of scenes from Dragon Ball Z, but I haven't seen much of the Dragon Ball GT. I do have them on DVD. I don't know if I have all of them, but I don't remember that scene.
Nice.
Maybe I need to revisit that. He probably made a joke about, you said pimple? He probably made a joke about pimple. I don't know. Seems like.
Yeah. It was about the pimple saying, if it's a pimple, I'm not going to get a shot and all this. Like, I don't want a shot.
Yeah. Oh, and he didn't want, I don't want a shot. He would climb the tree. I hate shots. You know, never wanted to go to the hospital. So, yeah, I'm sure it was a comedic moment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Who's up next, Marvel?
All right. Next question is going to Joseph.
Yes. You mentioned a bunch of other that you mentioned Bart Simpson and how he was voiced by a woman, I believe Nancy Cartwright, who did him, and Veronica Taylor, who did Ash Ketchum. I actually, from hearing your voice and what you do, I sincerely believe you could be the next Ash Ketchum. That's
Thank
just
you.
me
I'd
personally.
love a shot at that. I think the Ash Ketchum is no more, as for last I heard, and I know they switched the actors as well, from Victoria to Sarah, down to Jenny, and you know, another one that does a great job is Miley Flanagan in Naruto. She's got a nice little gruff kid voice too. I met her at a convention about a year ago. We did a little TikTok, and she had that same kind of rasp, but I'm a kid, but I'm tough. You know, there's a similarity there with some of these lead boy characters that fight. You know,
And that also leads me into my question from the original Dragon Ball series, where they would have you as Kid Goku say, "Yeah, you're a girl. Yeah, you're a boy." What went through the thought process of, do you really want me to say this kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I basically, it comes down to the direction. It just comes down to like, hey, this is what he says. This is the script. You just pretty much do your job. The goal was I always thought it was a challenge to try to make the director laugh, because I know if I got a laugh out of Barry Watson, that was good. Like that, oh, that's the one. And he'd be like, that's for the children. Yay. And so when I'd get a laugh out of the director, I knew it was probably gonna work out as long as it was timed up right and the dubs and the flaps matched. But I had a lot of fun with those lines. Like I said, I love comedy. I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. I'm a super silly person. I'm totally immature. I have a great time at the conventions because we all get to be kids, you know, cosplaying and just being silly, you know. So I had a lot of fun with that because I love comedy so much. So all I had to do was just think, like, I mean, I just got into the character. I was like, what would I say if I didn't know what a girl was? How would I say that? And that's where the acting came in, and that's where the innocence was portrayed through that carefree voice. And I would just kind of like think, okay, whatever. I'm not sure how old he was, but just think of me being like an 8-year-old little boy and growing up, you know, with I had stepbrothers and a brother, and, you know, school age kids. I mean, I remember what the boys were like. So I just channeled all of that into the character and basically just took direction. And thankfully I was really good at that. I was like, just stop, listen, and do what they say. There were times when I'd want to like do the line again if I didn't like it, but it was really kind of more up to the director at that point. I might be able to say, hey, can we do another one? I think I know what to do. I think I can make this better. A lot of times they'd let me do that, but it was really ultimately up to them to decide which one was going to be the one they use, you know.
Okay, so we got 3 more people that need their questions asked, and then we need to take off. So Phenomenal.
Okay, I'll try to summarize this time instead of being so Descriptive.
No,
Go
fine,
ahead,
though.
go ahead, Christy.
So, since you are in the world of voice acting and you met all your voice acting family, who is your favorite interaction?
With another voice actor of some kind?
Yeah.
I've had some really awesome interactions with a lot of different voice actors from a lot of different properties at the Comic-Cons. I do a lot of appearances on the weekends and I travel all over, sometimes overseas, sometimes United States, mostly United States. I've had several. One of my favorites was Peter Kalamis is actually the voice of Goku from the Vancouver days, and he's really good at mimicking. So we've done some videos where he plays like the voice of Homer Simpson, and I would be March, talk like this, we did some TikToks together, and then Mark Britton. If you guys don't know who Mark Britton is, he's a comedian who plays like 6 or 7 voices from Dragon Ball Z from the early days. So he does like Bardock, Corin the Cat, Ox King. I can't remember all of the names, but he's been doing Comic-Cons a lot lately too. We got back in touch 3 years ago, and he's like my brother from another mother like no other. And he is a stand-up comedian. He's hilarious. We interact a lot. We've done a lot of TikTok together. He's just naturally funny. And so between Peter and mostly Mark, I see Mark more often. I have done some really cool interactions with Linda Young, the voice of the original Frieza. She's pretty sweet. She's a sweet little lady, and she's usually down for an interaction of some kind. And then, of course, I have a lot of fun with Tiffany Vollmer, the original voice of Bulma. We've done a lot of stuff together. We do a lot of signings together because we were in Dragon Ball together. We have some prints that have both Bulma and Goku on them. So, and then Cynthia Krantz with Chi-Chi, she's great. She's so laid back. She's super cool. We're kind of like the OG Dragon Ball Z ladies. So mostly those. I did have a really fun time meeting Mario Castaneda. He is the voice of Goku in Mexico. So we did a scene where he was Goku and I was Gohan. And I don't know, I'm interacting with a lot of people on social media, and I'm doing a lot of stuff on Instagram now. So I'm having a lot of fun meeting a lot of different people. In fact, Victoria Taylor, I'm supposed to see her again. Finally, I think I'm going to see her in like May. I have not seen her since 2002. We did a signing together in Australia and New Zealand. So somebody mentioned Veronica. So I'm like really excited that it's like over 2 decades and we're finally going to get to appear together. So I'm sure I'll be doing some content with her.
Nice. All right. Next question going to Raph.
So Stephanie, my condolences.
Thank you.
And also, you are my biggest inspiration. Literally, meeting you was the greatest moment of my life. Twice, if I may add.
Yay, Raphael. You have the middle name of my great-grandfather, or my grandfather's name was John Raphael.
Nice.
I see that Raphael. I think of my Naldony grandpa. Yeah.
All right. My question is, out of all characters you played, which one was your favorite one?
All of them?
Out of all of them, which one was your favorite one?
It's a kind of a tie. I don't want to go into, I know we got to go, but like the Gohan is my first anime character. Mm-hmm. And like I said, with my mom fighting cancer and not making it months later after, but we were able to see it on TV together while she was in chemo. So I have a really close relationship with that character for that reason. And because of that scene with we talked about earlier with Cell Saga. But I had more fun with Goku, being that he's a comedic character. Dragon Ball is just silly. It's funny. He says crazy stuff that you just, what do I care about seeing your dirty old fanny? I mean, it's not dirty, you rude little boy. I mean, it's just, it's just funny. And to really nail those lines and to really make them genuinely like a little kid that really doesn't know what's going on. I just had more fun with that one. But I have a very dear, close, personal relationship with Gohan from the Ginyu Saga through the Cell Saga for those reasons. Because I was going through a lot of loss and grief and just sudden stuff and really trying to stay working, get back up on the horse. That's just kind of what I do. I don't stop. It's not, I don't want to get depressed and try to remember the good times and stuff. But I was just going through such an intense time in my life during the recording of that. So.
Okay.
Yes, I know.
KO was fun too. That was super fun being KO.
Nice.
Let's defend the plaza. Yeah.
Okay, and Bakuku, you're going to close it off. No?
And you want me to cut it off?
Oh, is it just gonna stop?
You have the last question.
Got it.
I was gonna let it go, but if I got the last one, I got one. I know it's not really Dragon Ball related, but it's kind of because you can do the voice. So KO,
Yeah.
I got two things for you. One, tell Ra I'm coming to see him. You gotta train me one day. And two, KO, if you can show me one thing as a hero, same thing with Goku, what would it be? What was the one thing you learned from your mother that you can teach me?
Oh, you mean like my real mother or from the mother KO?
But you can both.
It really, I mean, I know my mom's heart. So, my mom was, and not just because she passed, people say, oh, they passed away and they say all these nice things. My mom was genuinely like an angel. Like, she was good. She was honest. She was giving and loving, and anything loving and good that I've become as a result, I attribute to my mother. I lived with my mother up until I moved out and went to college, and she passed away when I was in my mid-20s. Her legacy, I mean, I know I strive to be like my mother, and I naturally think I am a lot like my mother because I stayed with her through the divorce. My parents split when I was 6, and then I stayed with her throughout the rest of my upbringing. And she was my fortress and my oasis and my heart. She's just my heart. And I just strive to be a better person every day because of her. And I know that even though she died young, in fact, I've already outlived my mother. It's crazy to think that. She would want me to be strong and resilient and to go out and find joy and happiness, find peace, get through the ups and downs of life. And that resilience and that love for other people and animals and just this intense, I don't know, I called myself the loving girl when I was little. It sounds funny and silly, but I just love. And, I get hurt a lot because of it, and I'm an empath, but you can't really change the essence of who you really are underneath everything. And a lot of that essence of who I am underneath, granted, I have my own character, personality, but a lot of it is what I learned just from simply being raised by my mother, just by her influence, by her being honest, by her being good, by her being giving, for any kind of generosity and loving spirit, it kind of came from her. So she's my superhero. Like, really, I mean, she was the light over dark. She was my army of I don't want to say salvation. That's not a good word, but like, she was my safety, my sense of safety. And so I strive to be that for others. And that's what I said. I have anime babies. I have fans all over the world. I unfortunately was not able to become a mom. I wanted to. I tried. It was not possible. And my time has passed. But that's why I have all this energy and this good energy to give to so many others. And so that's why when I go to the meet and greets and they hand me their babies and, I'm like, oh, I'm going to put them in my suitcase and take them home, so I have a lot of love and energy to give to the world and to the fans. So that's what I do.
Okay.
It just comes natural.
Cool.
Like supporting you guys. I'm in an anti-bullying movement. I raise money for mental health awareness. Domestic abuse. I was a victim of domestic abuse when I was growing up. So I strive to kind of help troubled teens, that might be coming from like a harsh environment where there might be some disarray or there might be some mental health concerns there. So I try to give back by being involved in charities and Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. My mom's was leukemia. So I think giving back when you can is a good thing to do. So I highly recommend that you just give of yourself and shine your light.
Stephanie, can you take one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. Becky, that's your hand.
Did you say you were an empath?
I am. Do you know what an empath is?
Yes.
It's a blessing and a curse.
I believe it.
Taking on the vibes and the energy in a room and wanting to fix and pacify everybody and make everybody happy.
I feel you, girl.
You take the energy. It's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, Stephanie,
you can get taken advantage of, when you care too much.
No, I know what you mean. It happened to me all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, use it for good and be strong and resilient, and then it'll be fine. You just gotta like lots of books you can read. There's workshops for this kind of stuff out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and thank you for being our first crossover guest.
First crossover multiverse guest, Dragon Ball Z.
All right.
Right?
This is the time. This is the time now where you get to plug your social media. So go ahead and knock yourself out.
All right. So the go-to, I would say, over anything, and it's still a work in progress, is my website. It's just stephanienadolny.com. There are some songs and some stuff on there that you can check out, where I'm going to be. Next, I do them a month at a time. I know for the month of February I'll be in Texas, but then I'll start traveling again after that. This is 2024, by the way. I have a Stephanie Naldony voice actors page on Facebook. I have Instagram, Stephanie Naldony. I have TikTok, Steph Naldony. Like I said, the go-to is mainly the website, so just check that out, and I usually have everything kind of updated there. And hopefully I'll be getting that album that I recorded in the 90s up on Spotify. I'll be making sure that gets posted on my social media as soon as it happens.
And I'll be one of the first ones to buy it the next time I see you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. I didn't realize the fans would be so interested in it, so we got to get it out there.
Okay, two things, guys, before we go. Firstly, if you guys are interested in joining the Zeoverse community, please go to the Discord link. The link, it will be in the bio and will be in the description in the YouTube video. So make sure you look into that. Also, guys, like and subscribe and follow this program so we can continue getting guests like Stephanie here.
I'll send some your way.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Goku, one of our evil villains has nicked your Dragon Ball.
Say again?
One of our villains is nicked one of the Dragon Balls, Goku.
What would my wish be?
No, one of our villains has nicked your Dragon Balls.
Yeah, one of our villains has taken your Dragon Balls.
Oh no, not the 4-star ball. That's my grandpa. You can't have it.
Uh-oh.
I will see if I can get it back.
We'll get it back for you.
We better go.
I'll fight you.
Contact Bulma. We need the tracker.
Right.
We need the tracker ASAP.
Yeah.
Fight in the desert. Let's go. I got the popcorn.
Let's do this.
From all of us, from the Multiverse Rangers podcast and the Zeonizer podcast, I also want to thank our special guest, Phenomenal, for joining in as a guest host for tonight. Thank you for showing up. We appreciate that. Go get Zeonized. Also, check out their podcast on YouTube as well as Spotify, as well as Discord. You know where to go find them. Like and subscribe them as well. And with that being said, Rangers, we're out of here. We got to get that. We got to get back to fighting Goku. You coming?
Yes, let's do it.